the Board of Directors for North Yuba Water District, Thursday, January 23rd at 5 p.m. Roll call, please.
President Hanson.
Here.
Vice President Brown. Director Nielsen.
Here.
Director Hawthorne.
Here.
Director Floor. Here. General Manager Maupin.
Here. Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, item C, public input. Opportunity for public comment on any non-agendized item within the jurisdiction of the district board. However, no action may be taken by the board on topics or matters presented during this public input item. The public must address the board on specific agendized items only during the board's consideration of those items. So I've got 4 requests to speak. These were received in order, and we'll start with Buck Weckman.
Buck Weckman. Last meeting, Director Floor said something that I absolutely agree with, and that was that the public wants transparency. And I like transparency on Director Floor's activities and conspiracy to file a failed complaint against this with the State Water Board for our $500,000 grant that we were given over your objections. I'd like to know what your detailed activities were there. Also, I'd like to know what your activities were in trying to stop the $250,000 grant given to us by the water agency. So, and also, it's obvious that you're working with Alton Wright as far as this conspiracy and others, and I wonder how much input you have into this North Yuba Water Alliance publication that's put out that calls people names and so forth.
He's supposed to be addressing you, the president.
Excuse me.
Okay, I'm addressing you. But most of all, I want to call attention to the public on the Public Records Act's request that numerous people have been done. Director Floor happened to be one of them. And I'll just give the top 5. It becomes clear who she's working with to try to bankrupt and run this department, this district into the ground. First one is Donna Corson. She requested 4 for a cost of over $1,500. Alton Wright, 30 for a cost of almost $2,000.
I got a deal.
Charles Sharp, 24 for a cost of over $2,000. Oregon House Water Association, 2 for a cost of almost $3,000. Gretchen Floor, 40 for a cost of almost $50,000. These people are trying to run the district into the ground. You guys are doing a great job. Appreciate it.
Okay. Next is Jenny Cavallari.
What I want to do is ask for a correction to the minutes from the meeting of October, and it was a public comment made by Ms. 𝐸 regarding the termination of Mr. Parker. And she alleged that myself was responsible, and I want to bring it forth that there were 4 board members, including a former Yuba County deputy, who agreed to fire the manager because of malfeasance for financial and managerial malfeasance. I am going to say one thing about Mr. Parker. I knew him for many years. He was very customer service oriented, and I'm going to give an example of the 16th of October of 1999, when the Pendola fire at 4:30 in the morning broke out, and the Dobbins Oregon House Fire Department contacted me. I was president of the board, and at 4:30 in the morning I went outside and I already could smell the smoke. I called Dennis at 6:30 at his house. He lived on Costa Creek here, And he and Eric Manley went up to SF-14. The ditch had been turned off the day before. He went up to SF-14 and he basically opened up the floodgate. And the water was down in Dobbins there in the house within about 2 to 3 hours for the firefighters. The other thing that was alleged that I had something to do with his illness and death. Mr. Parker, after about 3-4 years of leaving the district, was diagnosed with prostatic cancer. And professionally, I've worked in cancer research. And the PA marker for
Time.
is genetic, had nothing to do with the district. Thank you. And I'd like to not be a member of the public, please. My name is Jeanette Cavalier. Thank you.
Excuse me,
Okay, Nick.
where in October,
It was at your October board meeting.
do you know where in here,
It was under public comment.
public comment, okay, thank
I
you.
don't see it.
Well, I don't know, if it's on the tape, I didn't see it, you know, but it's on the tape. I just want it corrected, thank you.
It's not on.
Okay,
It's fine.
It's not in the minute.
next, Alton Wright.
Political weapon? Negative detractors? Bullying? Emails of a public agency have nothing to do with democratic accountability? Really? Your recent newsletter projects and exposes a deep, ongoing illness at the district. The illness is dishonesty. This district has been plagued for years with dishonesty, long before any of you were even here. Be it the dishonest 2015 rate hike, the hiring of manager Maupin, the illogical curtailment of irrigation, or the too costly go-nowhere investigations of a former director, this district is habitually deceitful. This dishonesty, this lack of trust, this darkness, is why 8 citizens exercising their First Amendment rights requested more information, critical information, to help the public understand the truth, because it's not found within these walls. For example, your latest newsletter wrongfully belittles Director Floor, saying that she doesn't support grants. Hogwash. Director Floor and people with integrity wholeheartedly support the district's access to grants. We just don't like it when applications are submitted with dishonest information, and by the way, the investigations with the state are continuing. Likewise, after a grant is won, we expect top-notch management of those taxpayer funds, but that's not the case here. Manager Maupin mismanaged the state grant, leaving more than $160,000 behind, as well as not completing all of the necessary paperwork for the $75,000 Bureau of Reclamation grant awarded well over a year ago. These 2 botched grants forced the district to grovel for money from the water agency. You failed to mention any of this in your newsletter, didn't you? Time?
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Charles Sharp.
Where's the podium? It was here last time. Did it break too?
It hasn't been here for a while, Charles.
I broke it.
So that was the first one.
Go
This
ahead,
is-
Charles, your time's going, bud.
So publications that, point out individuals like me in your newsletter, trying to bully and intimidate me, aren't helping your public relations.
Exactly.
Anyway, my fundamental, my question is, why aren't you working on the Forest-Town ditch conveyance system that can handle all of the 23,700 acre-feet of water that the district has permits for from the Feather River, and bring it through that pipe, that ditch, and get it down here, so then we can argue about how we're gonna use the water. That's what I want to see happen. Thank you.
Okay.
I signed in the sign-in sheet, am I able to do public
Let
comment?
me see where we are with our
You
total
have one
time.
more person to minute availability.
Okay.
This lady had her hand up first.
I have a very short thing.
Go ahead.
My
We
name is
might
Mon-
be able to do, might have enough time to hear 2 people.
I have a very short thing. It's a question. Many meetings ago, there was a point raised that Crystal Martin did not have a contract yet. I would like to ask, does she have a contract yet? was it approved? What are the deliverables? We'd like to understand that. 'Cause I'm interested, when I get these things, I know that she's doing work for you. I would like to see what's the contract and was it worked on yet? Because last time I was here, it was not. It's been a really long time.
Thank you.
You do a public records request.
Short and sweet. Zach Cross, I just wanted to comment on the newsletter. I thought it was very fair that you would name myself and Buck and a few other people who are not part of the alliance in there. And I will not apologize because it was the request of ratepayers. However, I will make the promise that from now on, to not run up a huge bill which I was unaware of, that I will work with the water district to try to find ways to get the information without it costing a small fortune. And you know, if you could possibly show, thank you, I know I requested transparency on that and where these expenditures are going. You know, if it's possible, I'd like to see where it started, where you had to start running things through the attorneys, that it started costing you guys a lot more money. Maybe there is a catalyst that started that or something you can pinpoint, because there's a lot of questions. Well, why does it cost this so much? If you look at straight out of Yuba, there's a lot of people asking these questions, and Yuba Foothills also. So thank you for the clarification and the transparency. I'll try not to run up any expenditures in the future like that, you know, and my bad. Thank you.
Thank you.
Election.
We're out of time on that, so we're moving on. Item D, election of the Board of Director officers. Do I have any nominations?
I nominate you for president. I nominate you for vice president.
Okay.
We just get a vote for this? Or a second, I think we just vote.
Well, it's not necessarily a motion, it's an appointment of the election of officers, so you get a second, you can get a vote.
I think we'll do a roll call vote. So this is for,
Is there any?
this is, I'll break it down, this will be for me as president, continuing. Roll call vote.
President Hampshire,
Yes.
Vice President Brown, Director Nielsen,
Yes.
Director Hawthorne,
Yes.
Director Floor.
No.
No.
Now this will be for,
Vice
Doug Nilsson for vice president. Roll call, please.
President Hampshire,
Yes.
Vice President Brown, Director Nielsen,
Yes.
Director Hawthorne,
Yes.
and Director Floor.
No.
Item E, consent items. There's 10 here. I'm not gonna read every one of these. We've all read them. Is there any questions?
There needs to be a correction made to the September 10th meeting minutes.
Okay, hang on, let me get to this. Okay.
So 30 minutes into the meeting on September 10th, North Star Engineering had given their presentation, and they stated that the 𝐸𝐴 documents would be available within 6 weeks from that date. I have now done a 𝐸𝐴 request for those documents. I have been refused that information, and those 𝐸𝐴 documents are still not available. That detail about the promise to have these documents done in 6 weeks needs to be in the meeting minutes. It's part of the record.
So you're stating that it's not in here?
It is not in there. And I also have a number of questions on the finances.
So, just so we have a clear record, do you wanna just pull the items from the consent calendar that you have questions about and wanna discuss?
Yes.
So, can we just list those out and move back to the ones that don't have discussion?
I have no discussion at this time on August 22nd, September 26th, or October 24th.
Do you mind, let's go by numbers on those. So consent item number 1, you have an issue?
Doesn't.
No, consent item number 2, I have an issue with that one.
Okay.
1, 3, and 4, I do not at this time have an issue.
Okay.
Payroll, I have an issue with that because, again, we do not have names on payroll. I have requested that names be placed on payroll. That is public information. And we have employees with similar initials, and therefore the public is entitled to see who is getting paid what.
I just wanna get the items you wanna pull, and then we'll have discussions on the items.
Okay, so I would like to also get approval of payroll 5, 6, and 7 pulled, because we need names there. And I would also like to get the bills pulled, for discussion
Okay,
and questions.
so the only items not pulled is 1, 3, and 4.
Correct.
Okay, so they can make a motion to approve 1, 3, and 4 under the consent calendar.
Okay. Can we make a, do I have a motion to approve consent items 1, 3, and 4? 1 being the approval of the minutes for the regular board meeting August 22nd. 3 being the approval of the minutes for the regular board meeting of September 26th. And 4, approval of the minutes for the regular board meeting of October 24th. I make a motion.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
President Hanser,
Yes.
may I ask a question?
Yes.
Do I have to keep saying Vice President Brown is
No.
absent? Okay. I was like, okay. Director Nielsen,
Yes.
Director Hawthorne,
Yes.
and Director Ford.
Yes.
Excuse me, I think I made a comment about changing the minutes or amending those minutes.
Excuse me, we're, not right now, we're discussing up here. Items 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10.
You take one at a time, so go back to item 2.
Okay. I'll let you approach one at a time. We'll start with 2.
So item 2, we need to incorporate into the meeting minutes, there is an entire section on here about my asking about the 𝐸QA documents. And we need to add a sentence in that 𝐝𝐤 and Neil Graver of North Star indicated that the 𝐸QA documents would be available within 6 weeks from that time. And that needs to be in the record. That was 30 minutes into the September 10th meeting. We still don't have them.
Okay, so,
That's my comment on the 10th.
okay. Item 5, this is for the payroll for the month
So
of
wait, before you go on to, so, with that correction, are you agreeing, so you need to, as a board, discuss that request to correct those minutes, and then vote on whether you're gonna include that correction, or direct staff, either approve them with that correction, or direct staff to make that correction and bring them back for approval.
I would make a motion to approve them with that addition. As long as it's been there, we don't need to see it again.
I'll second that.
Roll call vote, please, to approve the amendment.
President Hanser,
Yes.
Director Nielsen,
Yes.
Director Hawthorne,
Yes.
and Director Ford.
Yes.
Wow. Wow.
All right. Is that all for 5?
That is all for 5.
Okay. Item 6, approval of payroll for the month
Wait,
of
wait,
November.
wait, 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 wait.
That was 2.
That was 2, now we're on 5.
Okay. I got so many marks on this thing, bear with me, okay. 5, approval of payroll for the month of October 2019.
As I've stated previously, we need to have names on the payroll. It is public information, and currently it's using some sort of acronym that is only known to the North Yuba Water District. It is not known to the public whose money is paid them. So we need to have actual names on the payroll.
I'm gonna ask a question on that, and in your experience, is that common in other districts to name a person's first and last name on a payroll?
In my experience, it's not.
So does this become more of an issue, more of an issue with how the staff is
It's,
gonna approach it.
it's how
It's up to
the
them, is
board, it's how the district, how the staff wants to approach their
Okay.
payroll.
The legal,
Then I
The
say we
law.
put it, I say we do what's fair and put it to a vote right now, who wants to see that
Correct,
change?
legally, the
there's no
payroll for
expectation of
each,
privacy.
right, and the payroll category for each, employee's category is available, and you can get that information through,
Okay, so
website, so yes, I agree with you.
Director Floor is requesting that we put the names. Do I have a second? Moving on. Is that gonna be the same question for 5,
Yes.
6, and 7?
Yes,
Okay, so we're on to 8.
So you,
You vote.
Or do you wanna vote no on all of them?
well, no, but you still need approval of those payrolls.
Okay.
So
Do we need
you've
to
had
go
a dis-
through each one of them, just like we just did, or does that count for?
No, because my understanding is Director Floor's comment is the same for each item.
Okay.
5, 6, and 7.
So I move that we approve 5, 6, and 7.
I second. A roll call vote, please, to approve consent items 5, 6, and 7.
Without people's names.
President Hanson,
Yes.
Director Nielsen,
Yes.
Director Hawthorne,
Yes.
and Director Floor.
no.
Item 8. This is approval of the bills for the month of October 2019.
So, I need explanations for some of these bills. One of the things that I'm finding troublesome is there's a check, North Star's been paid a tremendous amount of money between October, November, and December. And in almost every case, I'm seeing payments for a Prop 1 grant, the Bureau of Reclamation grant, a DWR grant, a mitigation plan, water qualification review. These all need to be separated out into individual items. Even if you write one check, we still need to see the individual amounts of money that are being paid for each contract. My assumption would be that we have an individual contract for each scope of work. And I have a question about this DWR grant, what exactly is that? I'm not familiar with the DWR grant.
You want me to comment?
Yeah, please.
The DWR, it should be a small bill, that was, he attended, we went to Sacramento to attend the DWR meeting where there were grant funds possibly available for the challenge tank.
So that's a separate item.
Yeah.
Why are we paying more money for a USBR grant when the paperwork on that grant hasn't even been finalized? We've received no monies on that grant and there's no application process anymore.
In our discussions with USDA, they wanted some additional information that we needed to provide from North Star, from our engineers. He provided some information so they could review the availability of grants for us.
And what mitigation plan are we talking about that they're being paid for?
Which, are we, for USDA?
It doesn't say, it just says mitigation plan. It doesn't identify what it's for.
I'd have to look that one up.
Okay, so that's $22,000 there. I see again in October that we have another $4,000 to smart marketing. And, as far as I know, we don't actually have a signed contract with smart marketing yet. So why are we still paying them money?
I believe we do have a contract with them.
Okay. I see.
You voted on it and you signed it.
I see,
Go ahead.
I see that we again have another $12,000 going to North Star. In fact, it looks as though North Star has billed something in the neighborhood of almost $60,000 over the last 3 months since we last met.
If you go to section F, there's actually a total, it's only October through December.
Right, I said 3 months, October, November,
Right,
December.
it gives you the total amount that,
Correct.
yeah.
And so here we have in November, billing for the exact same thing. Now, it seems a little strange that we're paying for exactly the same thing we did the month before. I would assume the USBR grant wouldn't need any more information, and my understanding is at this point, they're just waiting for the water district to name an administrative officer. So why are we still paying North Star for that particular item, or was that an erroneous label?
I'll have to look it up.
Okay. Okay, and then here in December, we have more money to North Star and a hazard mitigation plan. Do you know what that is for?
I would look it up because it could be involved with the Forgestown ditch. I need to look it up. They're doing a lot of work for us.
Okay, and, do you know when we can expect any of the actual work products, like the secret documents?
Yeah, I can get a rundown and have it all itemized.
Okay, that sounds good. And then we have yet another, $14,000 in December going to, again, North Star for the Forgestown Ditch grant. So can you please tell me what exactly they are doing for us at this time?
Like I said, I'll go through all of their bills, I'll itemize them and answer all of your questions.
Okay, and then, lastly, I'd like to understand why we paid the, this auditor person, Lawn House, Water and Engineering, Energy Consulting, another $2,000 in December. What is that for?
We had an outstanding bill that didn't get paid.
Okay. The other question I have is that I noticed that we have no revenues from, South Feather Water and Power for 2019, other than our $709,000. I'm wondering if you could enlighten us on that.
I have to meet with South Feather.
Alrighty, thank you.
Okay.
Unbelievable.
So you still
Was
need
item
to,
eight?
yeah, you still need to,
Approval on
yeah, you still need to address those items, 8, 9,
Are
and
you
10.
gonna tell us,
Right.
say it?
That was eight,
Public
correct?
comment, I'm gonna bring it up.
That was all of them,
That was all of them.
All, okay.
Do
So
it
you're gonna,
slowly.
you'll get with General Manager Mopin, get the report, so you get your grant.
I would
Questions
expect that
answered.
he can send me an email in response to an email with my questions.
Okay. So I need a motion to approve 8, 9, and 10.
I move we approve 8, 9, and 10.
I second the motion. All, can I get a roll call vote to approve consent items 8, 9, and 10?
President Hanson,
Yes.
Director Nelson,
Yes.
Director Hawthorne,
Yes.
and Director Flora.
I will abstain until I get answers to my questions.
Okay, this is item F, financial manager's report.
Wait, public comment.
Oh, excuse me, yeah,
Got it.
I have a comment,
sorry, it's been off a little bit.
obviously. Alton Wright. Taxpayers and ratepayers, as well as tonight's visitors, the grand jury, thank you for coming, should be extremely concerned about the financial dishonesty at North Yuba Water District. This board is preparing to approve months and months of payroll and other financial obligations based on a dishonest 2019-2020 budget. Last August, Manager Mopin intentionally presented a hoax budget. Not only was it a copy of the district's 2018-19 checkbook, it did not take into account the most critical piece of information, which Director Flora just mentioned, a huge revenue loss. There was zero 2018 power revenue generation paid from South Feather in 2019. Moreover, and most relevant to budget forecasting, there wasn't any mention that net power revenues for 2019, 2020, and beyond would be zero. Mr. Mopin knew several months before concocting the budget that these critical $1 to $2 million checks would no longer fill the district coffers. There were phone conversations he had with the manager at South Feather. I've had that verified. And South Feather's own board packets provided Manager Mopin all the information he needed to know that this issue was a critical issue, and he failed to reveal it. According to South Feather's management, quote, not sure what North Yuba used as a 2019-2020 budget, but it would have been a risky business to assume more than the fixed 709, which is the fixed annual payment that you get. Approving any further financial obligations without a new budget is the utmost of financial irresponsibility and malfeasance. Please do your homework. Thank you. And by the way, this isn't community outreach. This is a class action lawsuit. Thank you.
Monica Fernandez.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm gonna let General Manager comment on Mr. Wright's.
Our budget's not built on the forecast of power generation. Its projects are based on on the receipt of income from the power.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yes.
Our budget isn't based upon finances from the power generation, projects are.
Well, okay, so I have to ask you a question then how do you have a $1.7 million budget when the only guaranteed amount of money we get is $709,000 plus approximately $450,000 from our own internal processes? That's about $1.1 million, yet you put together a $1.7 million budget, which everyone here approved except for me. So if it's based on projects, you still have to know you have that money coming in.
True, and all of our projects, when we sit around and talk about them, anything above and beyond normal operation, the board agrees to fund it through reserves.
I haven't seen that.
Ma'am, you're next.
Monica Fernandez, as a member of the public that is not so well versed in your numbers and doesn't receive a board packet and doesn't quite study all those numbers, but I'm quite just like a normal person, it's very strange to see a manager with numbers prepared speak to a board director with the numbers prepared. She asks about numbers and he doesn't know what it is. It doesn't know how to answer. I need to look that up, I need to look that up, I need to look that up, I need to look that up. This can be coincidence, but it's sure a strange thing to see and hear.
I'll make a comment on that is, we are all given this packet as board members with plenty of time to process this and approach with our questions, which is what we do. Okay? That's why you don't see us asking a lot of questions, because we're in here, we're asking our questions before we sit down and make a show out of this. Okay?
She's talking about the public. We're not in there asking.
Charles Sharp.
Hello, so if I understand this correct, you're not gonna get you're expecting not to get this other income from South Feather, and to make up the difference, you're gonna have to go to the reserve fund, which is good, you have $5 million in it, so you can use that for a while, I suppose. That's kind of what I think is happening. And I missed my podium. $75 to buy a very nice podium.
Okay, who's next? Ma'am?
My name is Donna Corson. The questions that are brought up here are for the public. You going individually gives the public no access.
Can I comment
That's
to
what
that?
this meeting is for,
Right.
is for the
And
public.
you have access to every board member that's in front of you right now with your
It's
direct
not the
question.
same as at a meeting by a long shot, by a very long shot.
Maybe she could answer your questions at one of your alliance meetings.
He's my director.
That makes sense.
Zach?
And she does.
So,
Thank you.
it's been pointed out before by members of the public, ratepayers and otherwise, that this is a lot of grandstanding. And I believe somebody last meeting asked Dr. Floor if she would just, review this on her own time. Now, I understand the public wants to know this information, but Dr. Floor, you have a Facebook page. If you were to go to him and ask the questions that you have here, into the public, you could easily report a lot of that probably through social media. And it would probably take a lot less time up at these meetings with what some call grandstanding. That's my comment.
Anyone else? Okay, I need a motion to approve.
Just as a start, people that want to get in on the budget and how it came about, I have a blog out there, dirnotebook.com, and I go over the 19 or 18-19 budget, or is it 19-20? The last budget, line by line, explaining where the numbers came from and whether they're realistic or not. You can agree or disagree with what I came up with, but it would be a good starting point, and that was put out. We didn't do this behind the scenes, and basically, he didn't come up with this out of sight and then bring it forward. It was looked at quite a bit.
I
Over a
would
lot
like
of
to
time.
respond. There is a video that shows that meeting, and the words are exactly this. We looked at our checkbook for last year, and we used that to determine our budget.
That's right.
You literally looked at what you had spent in 2018 and said, okay, there's our budget.
That
Most
basically is
budgets
what it
are
says.
based on how much money you know for sure you're gonna get, and then you budget so that you stay within that amount of money.
And we budget
Period.
off of actuals here.
We
No.
budgeted off.
Budget
of
off
that.
of the-
This is how these
excuse-
500
Excuse me, we budget off of the actuals, and we budget off of the history, going back and looking. If there hasn't been a big change, some big change to this district,
With
and
power revenue, $1 million.
it gives you a pretty good outlook on what's coming.
I would call the loss of power
Yeah.
revenues from South Feather as a huge change.
Yeah,
Well, and I believe General Manager Maupin has already stated that there's gonna be the contact with South Feather over all that. It's currently being worked out.
it's already had
When we
contact.
had the $4 million payment from them, how many years prior to that, before we had another one? Can we guarantee power revenue each year from them?
No, one of the
No,
advisors.
we get the 709, that's what the
And the
2000.
709 is not guaranteed as well.
Exactly. They don't have to pay it to us if they can't feel they
Well,
afford
then
it.
why are they
That's
figuring
in the
that?
2005 agreement.
Mm.
That's been out there. We cannot guarantee South Feather year to year to year with the larger payments. And so it really doesn't enter into it, and it certainly is not a downfall that we don't consider that it's not going to come, because some years it hasn't come.
Well, then, that is actually making even less sense, because if you build a $1.7 million budget, and you're saying, oh, we're not even gonna count on that, now what you have is about $450,000, and you're gonna make up for that in reserves. That's great for 5 years, not even 5 years. The whole point is that the way most agencies and most human beings budget is they look at how much money they know they're gonna get, and then they budget according to that. They don't say, well, we're gonna manufacture money somewhere along the way or hope that we get these revenues. We didn't get revenues last year. The 709 is actually not supposed to be going into the pocket of NYWD. It actually was designed, and the calculation, the way they came up with that weird number, is because that's what they estimated it would cost to maintain the Boardstown ditch. So that money is supposed to be going into maintenance of the ditch, not to buy $1 million security equipment and fancy machines and fancy trucks. None of that's supposed to go for that. My point here is that a budget was built that is not a reasonable, feasible budget. That is not the amount of money that we know we have coming in.
I would recommend people go look at dirnotebook.com.
All right, let's move on to item F, Financial Manager's Report. With that, I'll turn it over to Heidi.
As of December 31st, 2019, total cash in all accounts, including reserves, was $4,936,144.78. Total income for the fiscal year to date, which is July to the end of December, was $992,169.26. Total expenses were $987,627.06, leaving a net profit of $4,542.20.
Questions? Need a motion to approve?
I move we approve the
I'll second.
financial manager's report.
Can I get a roll call vote to approve item F, Financial
Public
Manager's
comment, is there
Report?
public comment?
After the vote.
President Hanser,
Yes.
Director Nielsen,
Yes.
Director Hawthorne,
Yes.
and Director Ford.
They're staying.
Public comment?
Public?
I won't stand up. Something absolutely shocking just happened in this room. Director Nielsen just said that the 709 is not a guarantee. But as Director Floor just pointed out, you have created even more of a faulty and erroneous and hoax budget. Thank you.
Anyone else? Ma'am?
Lisa Baker from Dobbins. My question is that when you have these independent audits from the firm in Stockton, for the last 3 years, they have shown that you're operating in the black, even with larger expenditures, upgrading equipment and everything. And they also look at all of the former bills, correct? In former years, how everything compares to and
Including
now.
all the net
So,
revenue.
if they're going over the budgets and your incomes, proposed incomes and all of that, and they're still saying that you're operating in the black for the first time in 3 years, or 3 years consecutively, they would also have to have taken a look at the prior year's reports too, where everything was operating in the red. Is that correct? For a comparison basis?
How far back did they go with the records?
Well, they certainly do a year to year.
Yes.
So then, for the several years that the district was operating in the red compared to the last 3 years with vast improvements, and still showing that you're operating in the black, I would assume that that is a good thing.
Right. Yep, you're right.
Because there were power revenues.
I'll also comment on that as I can recall that he commented that this district to keep up exactly what they're doing because they're doing great. You have an outside firm telling you this. He is not gonna come in here and fudge numbers because he's getting a paycheck from
And
this.
last year, the year before, 2017, there was $1.393 million in power revenues. The year prior to that, there was $2.14 million in power revenues. So up until last year, we were getting millions of dollars in power revenues. That is not true as of last year. So you may be seeing something very different this year on the audit. We'll have to wait and see. But we're not getting those revenues now or last year.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
My husband wouldn't be excited with me if we were running such a budget and I was running such expenses.
Thank you. Okay. Item G, resolution number 20-740, the adoption of district boundary change. I'm gonna hand this out to everybody on the board. If you recall, in our July 25th meeting, we were given this letter from the general manager. This letter is from 𝐈𝐭'𝐬, and it's describing how we have current overlapping boundaries with Browns Valley Irrigation District, and that our sphere of influence is a little bit off. That's why this is in front of us right now, is to bring this more accurate with the sphere of influence, as well as to not have the overlapping boundaries with Browns Valley Irrigation District. Any comments?
How many parcels are we talking
You want a
about?
motion to accept it, and then you go into comments, right?
Okay, do I have a motion to accept
I'll make a motion to accept.
item G?
I second it.
Okay. Can I get a roll call vote for item G?
Well, I think you're going
Comments.
into discussion now.
My question is, how many parcels are we talking about, and where exactly are the parcels located? Because these maps don't really show that.
That map right there that shows the district boundary all in blue,
Yes.
then it shows the tan at the bottom.
Yes.
The blue is North Yuba Water District, the tan is BVID, and
Right.
the red properties or the red areas, those demonstrate what need to be taken out of the district.
So you're talking about all of these here?
That is correct.
The hatch.
You guys can see that?
That's what has been in BVID's boundary for 70 years, more or less.
Are any of these people voting in North Yuba Water District elections?
They were.
They were your voters.
They were.
How many people are we talking about, do you know?
Well, you're going to approve me to do the work. If you agree to this into the resolution, you're gonna set me loose to deal with that.
Essentially, these are people, if I'm correct, that pay us taxes, but they get their water from BVID.
And how much money are we gonna lose in tax revenues as a result?
Until you authorize me to move forward, I don't have that numbered, but we don't charge those people money. The state collects money, the county gets a piece of it, and we bill the county, or we have our hands in the pockets of the county. So, whether they're in our district or not, it doesn't affect the individual. The state is still gonna tax them. The only thing that happens is the county gets to keep more of its money that we probably should not have been taking. The,
BVID would get it.
BVID will get it. Right.
Correct.
If they end.
They will.
so, the legal descriptions have to be prepared to de-annex, applications to LAFCO have to be dealt with, Board of Equalization has to be dealt with. So I will, if you approve this boundary, you authorize me to do the necessary work to answer those questions you just posed.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay. We vote? Hold on,
Public.
hold on. Or do we vote first, then public? Okay. Jenny in the back.
Yeah, who is planning to do the work? Who's planning, what company's gonna be doing the mapping work?
North Star.
Yeah.
If it, me, I would have the county.
Yeah.
They have access to all of the information, that'd probably be the cheapest deal in town.
Okay. Anyone else?
It's really great to see you guys clean this up, and we know you abhor the alliance, but it was the alliance that went to LAFCO and John Benoit and made them aware of this during your campaign. So, thank the alliance for cleaning this up.
The sphere of influence that's demonstrated on the LAFCO map went in 2011, well before we got here.
Yeah, but the alliance made LAFCO aware of the overlap. We found customers over there were
Paying to both.
paying to both.
That's not so. LAFCO came in 2012, demonstrated that they had by resolution.
You hadn't done anything about it, sir.
We didn't have the money.
Okay, let's not get back and forth like this. Charles, go ahead.
I would like to say, since PBID came up, you have much nicer chairs and a board and carpet on the floor. Their boardroom is very sparse.
Anyone else?
My question, kind of directed at Gary Hopper and then the whole board in general. I'm a non-biased person. I like to really be attentive when stuff is going on because I think all you gentlemen, lady, bring points to the table. Eric, I'd really like to see that gavel spread equally because I've already heard the F word 2 times behind me and the Lord's name taken in vain. And it's from one particular person. I really heard the F word dropped 2 times behind.
Anyone else?
Not particularly understanding, a moment ago, Director Fleur asked some numbers, some questions to a manager, and manager says you have to approve this first, and then I'll get into it. Will there be another, after he gets into it and gets some numbers and can answer the question, will there be another vote to go ahead, or
Yes.
is this?
Basically what this is, it's giving him the go-ahead to pursue figuring out which parcels are gonna be de-annexed. At that point is when we'll have a more accurate number on the actual parcels, the count, and then it'll come back to us for another vote.
Okay, so.
So this is basically to approve just getting the wheels turning.
And it is not, I mean, it gives again the impression that he doesn't know something. That's not what you're saying.
No, he doesn't know that until we give him approval to do this. He has to have us approve even going forward with this before he's gonna have that information. That's why we're approving it first before he goes and does anything.
I just wanted to be clear what is approved, that it's not the move is approved without knowing what it was. But
I'm a
you're
little
approving, yeah, I was also lost, thank you. You're approving to go into it so that you, sir, would know how to answer Dr. Floor's question.
Her question will be answered after
Yeah,
he
so
goes
this
through and
is
does
step
this.
one of a 4-step process, that's what you're,
I don't know two steps, basically.
So once he comes back with the information, then it will come back to the table and we can.
and then you guys discuss it
Vote on
again.
it.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yes.
I just want to bring out a point that all of those blue colors have a right to irrigation water from North Yuba Water District. I would like to see a map of how many parcels in that blue map are actually serviced and how it is impossible, even though these people are paying their taxes, it is impossible for North Yuba Water District to ever provide them the product for which they are taxed. It is disgusting.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. I get a roll call vote for item G, resolution number 20-740, the adoption of the district boundary change.
President Hanson,
Yes.
Director Nelson,
Yes.
Director Hawthorne,
Yes.
and Director Floor.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to item H, general manager's report. We've read this. Are there any questions? Okay. Public? Yes.
Was there any maintenance done in the last 3 months on the Oregon House ditch?
Yes, every time that they have an opportunity to get down there, the rainstorms make a problem getting up on the ditches, that we don't ruin them. But yes, there is dedicated equipment and personnel to it.
Thank you, I haven't seen it.
You parked your $60,000 excavator machine on my property for at least a couple weeks. I wasn't notified you were gonna do that. It'd be a courtesy, let the landowner know you're gonna bring the equipment on the property.
I will, it should have remained on the easement.
Yeah, but if it disappears one day, cause somebody, I'm not responsible. I'm just saying, I'd like to know that it was, where you're coming on and be there and just for.
Just so you know, they'll trailer it off and on the job set from here forward.
Alright, well, that was my question. Fine.
Anyone else? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve item H, general manager's report?
I'll make a motion.
And I'll second. Roll call vote, please.
President Hanson,
Yes.
Director Nelson,
Yes.
Director Hawthorne,
Yes.
Director Floor.
Yes.
Item I, director's input. Anybody have anything?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I request that this statement be included in its entirety in the meeting minutes for January 2020. In 2019, the GM and 4 previously incumbent board members worked to prevent me from being able to do my job and represent my constituents as I was elected to do. These 4 board directors and the GM have made a concerted effort to hinder or prevent me from asking questions in open public meetings, insisting I take my questions to the office for in-person private meetings. Passed a resolution to restrict board input discussion to 3 minutes, preventing robust, productive dialogue and depriving the public of their legal right to be informed about their agency. Have ignored every resolution or committee suggestion I have made, thereby ignoring the wishes of my constituents. State that will get back to me and are then non-responsive. Provide zero information on decisions made by the previous board of which these 4 were directors. Limit my constituent communications by refusing to update my email address on the website. I am extremely concerned about the following decisions and actions. Closed session information that should be made public and is not made public. Not having a board meeting for 90 minutes. Refusing to provide documents to myself as a board director with the justification that providing a director of district records is not in the public interest. Rendering a budget using the 2018 checkbook. The 4 directors reviewed and approved this $1.7 million budget in less than 20 minutes, despite the fact that Mr. Maupin was informed by Ray Mosley that no revenues would be forthcoming that year. That information was not communicated to either myself or the public. The budget has not been revised despite continued warnings from South Valley that power generation revenues will be reduced by millions. The board majority utterly failed to fulfill their fiduciary duty as evidenced by the abbreviated budget meeting, approval of budget for which we have no actual monies, the unsubstantiated decision to award $40,000 to a PR firm for which there is no line item in the budget, leaving $238,000 in grant money behind and then going to another agency to beg for money to replace the grant money we mismanaged, the inaccurate information being used to apply for grants, multiple ongoing investigations by county, state, and federal agencies due to inaccurate information submitted on grant applications, refusal to allow easy public access to North Yuba documents, including board packets, which should be uploaded monthly to the website, and then finally, sending out newsletters with verbiage that defames people and is intended to censor speech, quell the exercise of First Amendment rights, and foster scare tactics towards critics of NYWD exercising those constitutional rights. The 4 previously incumbent board directors were involved in previous activities about which I have no knowledge and no control over. It appears there are hidden agendas to which I am not privy. These 4 directors and the GM are not transparent and do not treat our customers and constituents nor me with any direct of respect, transparency, or accountability. Therefore, I am making it publicly known that there is a fiduciary and legal separation between myself and the other 4 board directors. The behavior of the board and GM has made it clear that they would prefer that I resign. I am here to state clearly and unequivocally that I will never resign. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I disagree with a lot of it. Next month or the month after, I'll come back with a direct rebuttal point by point.
I hope the grand jury will
Okay.
appear.
Public comment. Sir?
I would like to request the grand jury come for the rebuttal by the director to that way they can get both sides of the story.
Let's really
Thank you.
make it a, yeah, okay.
Anyone else?
They could also watch the video.
Okay. At this time, we're gonna be going into closed session. And
I'm gonna go
at 5:56.
Do you have any,
Thank you.
any questions, public questions about closed session?
Your name is?
I have a question.
Hang on.
Public comment in closed session.
Prior to closed session.
Yes.
It was nice to
Prior
meet you.
closed
Okay.
session.
Go ahead.
I'm not sure what you're discussing, but if you're discussing the manager's contract, you need to look at all the years that he's been taking vacation pay instead of taking vacation. Added to his salary, it's quite expensive. I think it's a health issue. If someone doesn't take vacation, how healthy can they be year after year after year? It's quite a number of years.
I'm sorry, who are you
Thank you.
talking about?
She was commenting on our closed session.
Oh.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you.